Hello students, welcome back to my YouTube channel. In our last class, we learned the nutrition and how do organisms obtain their food. Here in this video, we are going to learn the next life processes, that is respiration. Respiration is one type of process which releases the energy from the food material. Okay, there are mainly two types of the respiration: aerobic respiration and anaerobic respiration. Now, what is aerobic and what is anaerobic? Start from aerobic respiration. Aerobic respiration is one type of respiration process which takes place in the presence of O2. In presence of O2 is called as aerobic respiration. The respiration process which takes place in the presence of O2, then it is called as the aerobic respiration. Aerobic respiration process is also called as a cellular respiration process. Why? Because this process takes place inside the cell. So that's why it is also called as a cellular respiration. Now, then what is anaerobic respiration process? Anaerobic respiration is a one type of process which takes place in absence of oxygen. Anaerobic respiration is one type of process which takes place in absence of oxygen. It is called as anaerobic respiration. Now, let's detailed study on aerobic and anaerobic respiration. That means how the energy is released from the food material. Okay. So, whether it is aerobic or anaerobic respiration, the first step is breakdown of glucose molecule. Okay, so we all know that glucose is a 6-carbon compound. Glucose is a 6-carbon compound. So here glucose is breakdown into 2 molecules of 3-carbon compound, that is pyruvic acid. Here glucose is breakdown into a 3-carbon compound, that is a pyruvic acid. Now, the metabolism of pyruvic acid depends on present and absence of oxygen. The metabolism of pyruvic acid depends on present and absence of oxygen. Okay, so if oxygen is present, then what happen? If oxygen is present, then what happen? If oxygen is present, then this pyruvic acid convert into a 6 molecules of CO2, 6 molecules of H2O, plus it also release the energy. If oxygen is present, then the pyruvic acid convert into 6 molecules of carbon dioxide, 6 molecules of water molecule, and also release some amount of energy. But if oxygen is absent, if there is an absence of oxygen, then the pyruvic acid is converted into ethanol. If oxygen is absent, then this pyruvic acid convert into ethanol, plus it also release CO2 molecules and some amount of energy. So this process takes place in a yeast during the fermentation. This process takes place in yeast during fermentation. Okay. Now, in our muscle cell, that means where there is an absence of oxygen in our muscle cell, there is an absence of oxygen in muscle cell, then this pyruvic acid convert into lactic acid. Plus it also release some amount of energy. Okay, so in absence of oxygen, in yeast the end product is ethanol, and in animal muscle cell the end product is lactic acid. But in case of presence of oxygen, that means in case of aerobic respiration, it release. In case of aerobic respiration, they are released the more amount of energy. This released energy is utilized by organism for making a synthesis of ATP. This energy becomes utilized by all the organism for making a synthesis of ATP. So in aerobic respiration there are 38 ATP produced, but in anaerobic respiration just a least amount of ATP, that means just 2 ATP is formed. So ये हुआ हमारा respiration process and types of it. Now the next topic, that is respiration in plants or gaseous exchange in plant. Like other animal, plant also shows the gaseous exchange, plant also shows the respire. So how do plant respire? The respiration process in plant takes place through stomata and intercellular space. Stomata, we already learned the stomata is a small pore-like structure which present on the surface of leaves, whereas the intercellular space, that means the space between the cells, is called as intercellular space. That means the respiration in plant takes place through stomata and intercellular space by the process called as diffusion. And diffusion process mainly occurs on a surface of leaves. Okay, so which two gases are exchanged during this respiration process? That gases are oxygen, O2 and CO2. These two gases exchange in a respiration process. Okay, now the movement of the gases like O2 and CO2, the movement of the gases or the movement or the direction of diffusion is mainly depends on environmental condition and requirements of plant. Okay, during daytime plant performs the photosynthesis process. Okay, so whatever the carbon dioxide is generated due to respiration process is used up by the plant for a photosynthesis process. Okay, so कार्बन डाइऑक्साइड रिलीज होने के लिए बचता नहीं है, तो प्लांट क्या रिलीज करता है? प्लांट रिलीज द ऑक्सीजन ड्यूरिंग अ डे टाइम, बट ड्यूरिंग अ नाइट टाइम there is no photosynthesis process performed by the plants. Okay, so at that time they require oxygen. वो टाइम पे प्लांट को ऑक्सीजन की जरूरत पड़ती है and release the carbon dioxide. Okay, in this way, in this fashion, plants can respire.